decks in DC at the Grand Prix.
So Sam top forward with Bant Stoneblade. Both of them did play it in DC. The Bant Stoneblade is a little more of a newer innovation deck, and I would say, obviously Esper Stoneblade a standby here.
Yeah, I mean, Esper Stoneblade is a deck that we've obviously seen a lot of, and then Bant Stoneblade is a deck that I talked to Sam before the tournament, and I was like, hey, Sam, what are you playing? He's like, well, I top 8 at the Grand Prix with Bant Stoneblade, so just going to run that back, just like I did with Mono Blue Devotion. And he lost last round to Alex Bertoncini in a really close match. So he's trying to get back, trying to get the car going right in the right direction. But this is basically the same list that he used to make the top 8 at Grand Prix Washington, D.C.
Yeah, both these decks have four 1-mana creatures followed by 4 True Name Nemesis. They're on the same game plan. The difference between, where they're going to, I suppose, gain their points is that Sam has Knight of the Reliquary in the matchup, whereas Todd has access to more discard.
Yeah, I mean, Sam's deck is interesting because, he talked about in his article how he came to this deck with Reduke, and it's basically, how do you fit in True Name and Knight of the Reliquary and Zenith and all these things, and it's just, you just play a couple of each, that's all, and you're able to fit all of them in. And now he's going to start off with a Green Sun Zenith for what's likely to be a Dryad Arbor and pass the turn back.
Yeah, so one of the interesting parts about Bant Stoneblade here is that because it runs the Green Sun Zenith package, it does have access to this play of Green Sunning for 0.
Yep. We see a Thoughtseize here from Todd. Going to reveal exactly what Sam has in his hand. He's got a Ponder, a Force of Will, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, an Island, and a Savannah. So the mana is good to go as Sam was trying to work his way towards a Jace. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Todd take that with a Thoughtseize.
Yeah, so right now, I would almost expect him to take the Jace here.
I mean, of course, the Ponder can be anything, so I don't know if he wants to take that. Also depends on what's in Todd's hand, too.
Because Sam doesn't have an uncracked fetch land right now, the Ponder actually is not nearly as much value as it could be. So if Sam wants to take a card off the Ponder, he's more or less resigning himself to taking the other 2.
That's true. So Jace predictably goes bye-bye. That'll be Todd's turn. Sam will untap. He'll take a draw step. He finds a Swords to Plowshares to start. And he's going to start off, of course, with that Ponder.
Yeah, so right now, Sam has the mana advantage, but because of the Jace getting taken there, he doesn't really have a way to press the mana advantage. So he's going to have to be pretty greedy, I would think, with this Ponder. And it looks like it's paid off. He's found his Stoneforge Mystic, so that's the shuffle effect he wants, and the threat that he really needs to make.
Almost a perfect card to find off that Ponder. He's going to keep with it. Stoneforge goes to the grip. He's going to try to resolve it now. So let's see if this is good to go. Todd takes a look at his hand, and it is.
Yeah, it should be. Neither of these decks... Yeah, I mean, you can see whether a Force of Will would be coming from it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth countering if he does have the counter.
Yeah, if he has the counter spell, he probably wants to because he knows that Sam is so threat light in his hand. That it would make sense, and also he knows that it's likely that Sam cannot force back.
Yeah. Now, Sam's equipment to choose from are Umezawa's Jite and Batterskull, so he's taking his time on figuring out which one to get. Again, Todd knows the contents of Sam's hand. He's got a Force of Will and some mystery cards over there. So he's got an idea of what's in the hand, and now he knows the Jite is in his hand as well. So he can move forward with a good idea of what he needs to play against now.
Yeah, well, I think part of the Jite keep here is that he does also have Dryad Arbor. He has 2 creatures on the board at the moment, and I think he wants an answer to be able to answer an opposing Stoneforge Mystic. He doesn't want to get into Batterskull on Batterskull Wars because Todd's up cards right now.
Yep.
So if he has a Jite, he can prevent that from happening.
Gotcha. The only card that Todd does not know about in Sam's hand is that Swords to Plowshares. As now Todd is going to start his turn with the main phase Brainstorm, so he wants to get set up accordingly, and he does have a Swords to Plowshares in his hand.
Well, Todd has most of the threats of his deck right now. He does have Deathrite Shamans in addition to the Stoneforge Mystics, so it'll be interesting to see what line he wants to take here. The Jite play from Sam really does hamper what Todd can do right now. He almost needs to find a removal spell before he goes forward.
You see, he's going to resolve his Brainstorm. He's got a Marsh Flats and a Polluted Delta to make it a perfect one. He's going to sacrifice the Delta, go down to 17. Actually, he's going to go down. He should go down to 16, actually. 2 from the Thoughtseize, 2 fetch lands. And now we'll see what land he wants to search out and if he wants to Swords this right away.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking he probably will sort it. He wants to sculpt his game around here is that True Name Nemesis in his hand.
A good card to sculpt things around.
Yes, well, especially in these Stoneblade, Deathblade mirrors, probably the most important card. It may even, it's almost more dominant than a Jace right now.
Yeah, and that's a crazy thing to say, but I don't disagree with you, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's certainly a card. I was comparing. It's Invisible Stalker. If Invisible Stalker had could regenerate at will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it feels like.
it's just a little. It's Stalker was too easy to answer. You see, so from Sam, we're gonna see the 2 mana for the GT, and he's just gonna hit with Dryad Arbor.
Oh, look at that tough guy Arbor getting in for 1. Pass back to Anderson. Anderson goes to 15. He's going to draw his card. It is a Tundra, and we'll see if he's going to try to deploy that True Name Nemesis that you mentioned.
He doesn't actually have the 3rd blue card to protect True Name Nemesis, so he may cast other spells. Nemesis is so dominant that he probably doesn't want to expose it to the Force of Will that he knows is in Sam's hand.
Well, he's going to start with the Deathrite Shaman, and now he's going to follow this up with a Stoneforge Mystic of his own. And so what he's able to do now, he still has a Force 1 and blue card, so that's step 1. He resolves Stoneforge, gets the GT of his own, and now he can play a little bit of defense against the opposing GT as well. I think he's happy to block here and things of that nature moving forward.
Yeah, he'll get to trade the Dryad Arbor for one of his creatures, and then even if Sam doesn't make that play, Todd can kind of force him into the play by playing his own GT here. So basically, Sam's Dryad Arbor is going to die. Sam gets to choose how it's going to die.
Feels like he does have complete control over that situation. But of course, as we know, just like you guys do at home, that True Name Nemesis is looming. Todd is just looking for 1 blue card to cast that and then force whatever counterspell Sam may have. And Sam is going to suit up the Dryad Arbor. And let's see if Todd's going to block, and if so, how he chooses to do so.
Yeah, Sam does have, right now, Daze, Force of Will, Swords to Plowshares. So he does have a Force plus blue card and the removal spell.
All right, Todd says block with my Stoneforge. Sam says that's fine. Counters, take care of that.
Yeah, it looks like Sam's going to use his swords maybe now here. Oh, yeah, on the Deathrite Shaman.
I think it's worth killing, too. It is such a powerful card that you have to get that thing off the table before it goes active.
Yeah, the idea is you could wait and hope to tempo Todd when he goes for a GT equip.
See, I didn't think that Todd would actually cast this.
Yeah, I didn't think this.
Yeah, you see him click his fingers because he was patient before, and then Sam draws the blue card to go along with the force.
Right. So now Todd is just left with GT Swords to Plowshares, Force of Will. He has no more action in his hand, and he's really, he's at the mercy of Sam top decking a True Name Nemesis at the moment.
So he's definitely left his shields down. And Sam has 4 of those to draw to. Todd plays Mr. Rainforest and passes back. What does Sam draw? And you called it.
Okay, so not only is it that, but if you look at this, Sam had to do it that turn. Todd had 5 lands in play too. So that was a timely True Name Nemesis.
Now Todd with a Misty Rainforest, he just has to pass the turn back, and now he's in a world of trouble.
Well, he knows where this is going. This is what True Name Nemesis has done right now to Legacy. It's whoever gets this Nemesis plus equipment combo going first really runs away with the game. There's not much that Todd can do to answer this.
Yeah, and you see the dramatic shift that this card has put on the fair matchups here. Is now that's equipped with Nozawa's GT. Sam is going to go double Wasteland you, mess with your resources a little bit here. But Todd's biggest problem is that he cannot get this thing off of the board unless he's got something creative to get it off of the table.
And he does have one creative thing. He is now playing a 1 of Diabolic Edict in his deck, presumably for True Name Nemesis.
I would think so, and now's about as good a time as any.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great time to draw it, actually.
And it looks like those lands look like they may have come back into play. They may not have. I'm not really sure exactly what happened there.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some communication confusion. Overall, it's not particularly influential to how the game's progressing. Sam's still beating him up with the True Name Nemesis, and Todd still doesn't have an answer to it.
It looks like both players are on the same page here. I think Sam may have played an extra land on the previous turn when he had already played one, so he does have a Wasteland in his hand still and the Wasteland in play. So both players have agreed on the board state, so we're kosher, as Todd is going to hardcast a Force of Will to take care of that Brainstorm, and he is really just trying to draw that Diabolic Edict.
Yeah, I mean, he basically has to dig to the Edict. His counterspell doesn't matter. At that point, he wants to stop Sam from drawing a replacement True Name Nemesis. Remember that both players are playing 4 of them here, and they have very few answers to the True Name Nemesis, so no player really is... It's not a game of control anymore, where in Esper Stoneblade it used to kind of be the mirror was who could control the board first. It's more who can get the True Name Nemesis presence on the board first.
Sam is going to attack for a healthy amount. We'll see where the life totals go after the dust settles.
Yeah,
he's going to play Wastelands now and do it this turn and see what he's going to kill.
Yeah, that was a swing for 9, it looks like, so that this will be a lethal attack next turn.
Draw. Deathrite Shaman. That's it. Sam Black does win game number 1 with Bant Stoneblade. First a true name Nemesis wins, Matthias. That's how it works, man.
I mean, that's why they're both playing 4.
Yeah, no kidding. I think you have to in these fair blue decks of all variations. I've seen some people who are only playing 3, and honestly, I think the reason I see deck lists only have 3 is because they're still waiting to pick up their 4th one. That's how I honestly feel right now, because I can't imagine 3 is the right number. After watching last week and previous weeks and that particular game, it's the first one to get the thing on the board.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of jockeying of position there. So we saw Sam was able to force Todd's true name, then Todd was not able to answer Sam's in time. There's that window that Sam hit. Todd could have waited to play his with counterspell backup, but the problem is because Todd couldn't answer Sam's true name Nemesis. Even if Sam got his down first, then it wouldn't have mattered if Todd had his with force backup. I think he recognized just how important it is to have the first true name, and he decided just to jam there instead of waiting to make it secure.
Yeah, just hoping that Sam didn't have the blue card to go on this Force of Will, and he did. He had Peel the Days, and that gets the job done. So, we'll take a look at the sideboards first. You've got Todd's in front of you.
All right.
What's he have to does he have anything to answer true name?
To answer true name, well,
I guess sort of. He's got a Deluge, and he's got a Diabolic Edict.
Yeah, he has a Diabolic Edict and Toxic Deluge. So he has some ways to interact with it. I mean, really what you try to do in this matchup is you try to interact with the equipment that's on True Name Nemesis.
Okay.
So what Todd will try to do is he has these 2 Abrupt Decays, which he could board in. That will take care of the GT at the very least. He has 2 Detention Spheres, so he could get rid of a Batter Skull, say.
Okay.
So the idea, to answer True Name Nemesis, what's probably a better call than trying to kill the Nemesis is trying to play your own True Name Nemesis and get more equipment on yours than is on your opponent's.
Okay, so it's an equipment arms race, it sounds like.
I mean, it can go both ways. If you just get 2 True Name Nemesis in play, then it also can just be a swing for 6 race.
Okay. We take a look at Sam Black's sideboard here. He has 3 copies of Swan Song, 1 Spell Pierce and Envelop, 2 Vendilion Click and Aethersworn Canonist, 2 copies of Humility, and additional Umezawa's GT in the sideboard to go along with his first 1 main deck. I got a Teak, a Sylvan Library, a Tormod's Crypt, and a Relic of Progenitus. So with Legacy, of course, you're going to see a lot of 2s and 1s in sideboards here. Sylvan Library, pretty good in this matchup. If you're able to draw 1, you can actually have more card selection than your opponent. Actually find True Name Nemesis before your opponent does. The additional GT, in case you don't think Batterskull is that great in this matchup, which I have seen people kind of move towards this direction because it's all about True Name plus GT to actually win, that you can actually board out the Batterskull for an additional GT. Humility is kind of interesting because it takes the text off of other True Name Nemesis, so, you could see him board that in. But I could see a lot of cards coming in here. Vendilion Click ×2. You could see Spell Pierce, something of that nature come in. So a lot of interesting sideboard options on Sam's side.
Yeah, well, what I think would be interesting to see is traditionally a card like Sylvan Library would be excellent in this matchup. This matchup was fairly grindy and positional. But because of the fact that True Name Nemesis are 4-ofs in each deck, I think that just the dynamic of this matchup changes. It's faster. It's more about fighting over cards. It's less about card advantage because even you can't card advantage won't answer the True Name Nemesis. So I still think Sam will be boarding in things like Sylvan Library, but I'll be interested to see which of the other spells he uses here.
It's really funny because I've talked to a lot of people over the past couple of weeks. Actually, I had a discussion when we were on our break of just talking with OSIP and Patrick Sullivan and some other people about True Name Nemesis and is it good for Legacy? Is it bad for Legacy? Is it unhealthy? Does it pass the fun test of having fun interactive games with it? I think that was a resounding no, unfortunately. But it's not like this card is unbeatable. It just happens to be a very good card, and it happens to warp how the fair matches are played now, which is a thing that happens. I mean, you have to adjust to that, and you have to have some of your own and have some creative answers. This is the first time someone's mentioned to me, as you did, that perhaps it's correct to go after the equipment than actually care that much about the 3-1. Maybe the equipments are the things that are actually killing you.
Well, I think that matters because Todd has his own True Name Nemesis.
Okay.
Yeah, it's say for example a Death and Taxes, for example, can't answer True Name Nemesis, but they aggressively go after the equipment because if it's a 3 per turn, maybe they can race it. They do have flyers.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, you can basically, at the end of the day, it's a 3-1 creature, so you can just kind of...
it's a 3-1 for 3. That's not that efficient.
Yeah, that's Gnarled Mass. We've seen that before, and that's fine. And it's a 3-1 unblockable, but that's a beatable card. The Umezawa's GT and the Sword of Fire and Ice and things of that nature, those are the things that make it great. As we see, both players have kept their 7 cards. Sam is going to come out here with a Noble Hierarch, so accelerating again. Todd is going to take a draw step here. He does have a Swords, and now he has a Thoughtseize, so he also has a Wasteland too, so he could really go after Sam's mana base if he wants.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see whether he chooses to do that. He does... His hand is mostly just Disruption and Brainstorms. I like that he's leading on a Thoughtseize right now to see basically how light Sam's hand is on mana, whether or not that's a viable plan.
Get a better idea if you can attempt to go after those lands and mana screw your opponent, as it were.
Looks like Sam has a lot of lands.
Yeah, I think I saw Caracas over there. Now here's a Wasteland to protect the hand, removing. Excuse me, your Force of Will to protect the hand, removing Ponder.
And that's a very aggressive Force of Will by Sam.
I agree.
If I'm reading that, I would suggest something like a turn 2 True Name.
Yikes, if that's
I mean,
the case.
what's worth protecting at that level,
That's
right?
true.
I think it's just a turn 2 True Name. And we just might see one of those, you know? Just how good is that guy?
Well, in turn 2, it's unbelievable, so...
Well, you got to get it. You just have to get it down.
Yeah.
You know? Then it's really hard. And Sam's gets to be a 4-2.
I wonder if Todd should have sorted that Noble Hierarch. Now, this here's 3 mana right away, and there is a True Name Nemesis.
Okay, so here's what I think was the play. Once Sam Force of Willed the Thoughtseize, I think you're supposed to Swords the Hierarch because you're like, oh crap, True Name Nemesis is coming.
That's how I kind of feel too. You know, at least disrupt his mana a little bit here, because I'm with you in the situation of, well, what is he protecting? What could he possibly say that in this kind of grindy matchup where he's just like,
what's good enough to? I mean,
lose
Jace
2
would be
cards.
the other answer.
Yeah.
But that's not. I don't even think Jace is good enough.
Compared to True Name Nemesis, his True Name Nemesis
He
is...
pitched Ponder.
I know.
That's
I know.
a really good card.
And True Name Nemesis is above Jace in the hierarchy of cards in this
Yes.
matchup, which, again, is a crazy thing to say, but it just turns out to be true. Now, again, Todd may be reeling him in here. He might have a card like Toxic Deluge in his hand, where he doesn't even care about this coming into play.
Yeah. If he had sorted here, Todd does look like he has his own True Names right now, so he could have used his own True Name. He would be ahead in the True Name Nemesis race. As it is now, he has to be the control deck. He has to find a Toxic Deluge. You see a Brainstorm there draws Swords, Land, Stoneforge Mystic. Pretty sure we'll see him keep the Stoneforge Mystic. At least if Batterskull is in play, maybe he can stop Sam from being able to attack.
Yeah, when the race, potentially, if we do get into one, Batterskull is quite good at doing that. What to do with a Brainstorm? You know, just the most difficult card to resolve in Legacy.
Well, I think the Swords to Plowshares are pretty weak at this point now that Sam has laid out the 3-1. At least one of the two is going to go back, if not both.
I mean, for Todd right now, he just hope that Sam doesn't have an equipment, because then the race really starts to pick up here. Again, I feel like
if next turn Sam plays Sword of Fire Ice, that's really bad.
That's definitely bad news. I would never argue otherwise.
Then things become difficult.
Let's see. Todd is going to sacrifice his Marsh Flats. He's going to go searching for a land, a specific one. It's going to be a scrub land.
He actually does have 4 answers now, though, to the True Name. Well, because of Noble Hierarch, sorry, it's only 2 because of Noble Hierarch. So he may want to keep 1 Swords in his hand so that if he draws an Edict, it will kill True Name.
All right, so he's going to go Thought Seizing here. So Todd is up to something here. And now here's a Swords, Caracas, and Windswept Teeth. So yeah.
Sam's got nothing other than the True Name.
He has actual nothing except for the 3-1 Unkillable. I put unkillable in quotes. Todd passes back. Sam draws a card, immediately attacks for 4. 3 plus the 1 Exalted on Noble Hierarch. Pass the turn back.
Yeah, if he drew a Swamp for the turn, so Sam's still with nothing but just playing the board. Todd has his own True Name.
Okay, there's Toxic Deluge.
Toxic Deluge.
Yep. Todd wanted to make sure the coast was clear, 1. 2, make sure that he can play around days as well. So he's accomplished both of those things. That's what it felt like he was setting him up for. And paying 1 life has never felt so good.
Yeah, well, I think you can tell he's setting up for that when he doesn't play his own True Name. Yeah, so Toxic Deluge is a card that's seeing a little more play right now. Basically just a 3-mana sweeper for... It's just a 3-mana Wrath. It hurts you a bit, but as long as you're willing to pay some life points, you have a 3-mana sweeper.
I think Todd was willing to pay some life points there.
And you only had to pay 1.
Yeah.
Wasn't that... It was cheap.
So does Sam draw another True Name here? Now, it looked like he may have, but it may have also been one of the 2 Vendilion Clicks that are in his sideboard. So we'll see exactly what he drew.
How big of a dagger would it be if he just drops another True Name Nemesis?
The biggest of daggers. There's a Caracas and passing the turn back. This feels like Vendilion Click here. Can protect it with the Caracas.
Yeah, so the Vendilion Click Caracas interaction is fairly strong.
And there's the draw step. So Vendilion Click's going to come down. I target you. Well, I've got a True Name. I've got a Swords of Plowshares, a Stoneforge Mystic, and a Deathrite Shaman. So my hand is loaded.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to take either the Stoneforge or the True Name, is my guess, and I think it's the Stoneforge. He can't actually... if Todd's able to link up a GT on the true name, then Sam's done.
Yep.
And actually, because of how the game is here and that swords, I think if Todd's able to put a GT on anything, that's probably going to be a problem for Sam.
So you see Sam is analyzing the hand here. What do you take if you're Sam in this spot?
I think you have to take Stoneforge Mystic just because of how good GT is against you.
All right. Well, Matthias goes with Stoneforge.
I go with Stoneforge, but I'm not. I trust Sam on this one way more.
He's a good guy to trust. I mean, did top 8 a Grand Prix with this deck just a few weeks ago. He's going to put Stoneforge on the bottom. You guys are on the same page.
I win. Okay.
Well, let's see what Todd draws.
Draws Brainstorm.
That's that's not a win.
Arguably not is even better.
All right, so Todd is going to sacrifice this right away. So that's kind of interesting. I guess this is going to be a true name plus Deathrite turn.
That would be my guess.
Yep. Which is a pretty gosh darn good turn. Here comes a Tropical Island.
Well, he almost wants to... No. He's doing this probably just so he can play True Name. He wants to leave a white up at all times so that Sam can't continue to rebuy this Vendilion Click. Would be my guess. No, he's not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I understand why you would want to do that, but I also think that you can afford to deploy both of these threats because if
Sam doesn't want to rebuy right now.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to rebuy right now, and also what this is basically doing, as Sam draws a Noble Hierarch, is that, Deathrite Shaman makes it so that Vendilion Click is effectively attacking for 1, now 2 because Noble Hierarch has shown up, because he can gain some life and remove some creatures that were killed via Toxic Deluge. Sam going to draw immediately, put this here, Swords and Brainstorm, and you see Sam go, darn it!
Well, he's going to take he's taking the swords while he has the chance to do it. Sam needs to ride this Vendilion Click to victory, and I really like how he's played the immediate recast. And another Brainstorm drawn by Todd, so he's going to have a lot of cards to look at.
Well, he's looking for a fetch land or a shuffler among them, so Todd is going to start with a Brainstorm off of that Underground Sea. There's your shuffler.
He finds a fetch land and an Abrupt Decay.
Wow.
So I'm guessing, Abrupt Decay immediately kept.
That's a good guess.
Yes.
Here's Abrupt Decay. Get that thing out of here, says Todd. And now it's Todd's turn to start attacking with a true name Nemesis.
Yeah, things got really difficult for Sam now.
See how you like it. Attack for 3. Black's going to go down to 13. Anderson is at 7. He's got Deathrite Shaman at the ready.
And true name Nemesis drawn by Sam.
Oh, back and forth we go.
That is that good right now?
That is not so bad. But can it win the race in this situation?
Well, it's only dealing 1 damage a turn, whereas Todd's is dealing 3. I'm going to say 2, because it exalts up to 4, but then Todd gains 2 life. So it's only a 2 versus 3 race. That's a race that Sam's going to win right now. Granted, Todd does have a Brainstorm, so Todd can change the equation much more easily than Sam can.
It sounds like it might be that race to the first equipment now. Whoever finds GT first,
if someone finds a GT, that will certainly win it from here.
Well, Todd removes the Deathrite Shaman. He is going to go up to 8.
Yeah, so Todd's hits are of 3, so he's gotten on a 5-turn clock. Sam's hits equal 2, so Todd's on a 4-turn clock.
Now, that was an interesting draw step there. I believe that was a Snapcaster Mage. Now, that means that he can rebuy Toxic Deluge if he thinks that he's in trouble, but he has to lose his own true name and his Snapcaster Mage to do it.
I think what's actually correct here is if he just rebuys an Abrupt Decay and hits Noble Hierarch, the race is heavily in Todd's favor.
Okay.
Because then Sam's dealing 1, Todd's dealing 3, and Todd has... Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and do that play. And Todd has an extra 2-1 in play.
So now in comes True Name Nemesis. Black's going to go down to 10. Anderson's at 8, and yes, as you mentioned, here comes the attack for 3, put Anderson down to 5. He can gain life with Deathrite Shaman, making it effectively an attack for 1.
Yeah, Sam knows he's behind in the race. He's going to have to still go for this. He just has to hope that he draws GT this turn.
Yeah, it doesn't have much of a choice. As Anderson, is he going to start his turn off with the Brainstorm? He looks like he might. He wants to figure out which one to tap. So hit 1, hit 2, hit
Fetch,
3.
And he hits the Diabolic Edict.
Now this is super interesting. Do you
want to
show it? Do you want to show it?
No.
And he does show it immediately.
All right.
Now that's interesting for the third game that's going to come up.
It's possible that Sam already know if they could know each other's lists. These players.
They could. It's possible, but at the same time, it's interesting, right? Because
I wouldn't have shown it. Yes.
Because now what happens is Sam's going to concede game number 2. We'll move on to a third and final game. Both players are going to sideboard. What's interesting now is because now Sam is going to continually set up, I think, board states where True Name Nemesis is with a creature, which is good for Todd, right? Because now, it gives Todd more time to get set up because I think Todd's deck is a control deck in this matchup.
Well, Todd, there's a little Razor's Edge thing going on here. Sam knows that Todd's playing both Toxic Deluge and Diabolic Edict,
Okay.
so, you know, one of them is good against a lone True Name Nemesis, and one is good against an entire board, and Sam doesn't really get to know which one Todd has.
That's true.
So he can't really set up one way or the other. What Sam knows is that his True Name Nemesis aren't particularly safe. So say that play where he Force of Willed pitching Ponder just to get the turn 2 True Name down, he may not make a play like that again, because that is 2 for 1-ing himself.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, that Todd killed 2 True Name Nemesis that game.
And the tough thing here for Sam as well is that True Name Nemesis isn't safe in your hand or in play because Todd has discard spells. So Thoughtseize can take it, or if one resolves, you got Diabolic Edict or Toxic Deluge to get off the table. And that's not even adding into the equation of, you know, both players having True Name Nemesis and Todd having the equipment before Sam does. So
Yeah.
kind of an uphill climb here for Sam, even though he did get the first game pretty easily.
Well, what Sam can do is he can just play cards like Knight of the Reliquary. He still has that access to that where, you know, he just has more threats than Todd does right now. So I think he, to a certain point, will just be jamming and hoping, you know, jamming and crossing fingers.
You see both players briefly looking at the sideboard, but now they're going to reshuffle back up. So I don't think a ton is going to change here. You know, Sam still has the options here with an additional Umezawa's Jite. He's got Sylvan Library, you know, Spell Pierce, Envelop, some counter spells of that nature, Humility if he wants to go that route, and then just try to win via equipment. Todd still has his removal spells. We saw Toxic Deluge, and I really like the way that he played that second game. Just really doing a nice job of setting it and clearing the path for it.
Yeah.
Thought it was really good.
No, that was a very nice way to set it up, especially because Sam had invested so much in it. I think, and he got Sam to invest even more in the board.
Did a really, really nice job there, did Anderson. Of course, if you guys are just joining us, you've come here to see Todd Anderson versus Sam Black, both players sitting at 4-1 in the Legacy portion of our Invitational. I'm Cedric Phillips, joined by Matthias Hunt. At SCG Live, hashtag SCGINVI for your tweets all weekend long. We've got 2 more rounds to go today. Of course, we have a Standard Open tomorrow and a Legacy Open on Sunday. We've also got to crown 3 champions and find out what our next player token is going to be. So we got a lot of work to do this weekend. Today is the easy day. There's only 8 rounds today.
Right. So remember, the entire Star City Games Open weekend is not just the Invitational. It is a regular Open series featuring the Invitational.
Yes.
So tomorrow we'll have coverage of the Standard Open as well as the Invitational, and on Sunday we'll also bring you parts of the Legacy Open.
That's right. We've also got a Sealed Classic here on Sunday and the Ascension Immortal Tournament as well. So if you are in the Vegas area, or hey, if you're not and you want to come on down, there's plenty of Magic to be played here. There's a lot of great players in attendance. A lot of big announcements that we've already made at the beginning of this weekend. We'll be making them again and again and again. As Sam Black is going to Zenith for a Dryad Arbor to get this game started.
Yeah, so once again, Sam, you know, with the 2 mana on turn 1, threatening a turn 2 True Name Nemesis.
And I think that's actually the strongest point of Sam's deck, is that he might be the deck that can get True Name Nemesis out the quickest.
Yeah.
Of any of the True Name Nemesis decks. He has the most acceleration. And is it about getting it into play first, as Todd comes out here with a Swords to Plowshares on the Dryad Arbor to slow down the acceleration?
Yeah, Todd didn't have a Thoughtseize and doesn't have a way to answer True Name in his hand. He really couldn't afford Sam playing one on turn 2.
Yeah. He did draw a True Name Nemesis of his own. But basically, Swords being used as a land destruction spell there. Now you see Sam has a Wasteland in his hand, so will he pull the trigger on that, or does he want to keep developing towards True Name? It's like the answer is develop.
I don't think Sam has, I think that's his only other land, and he wants to make it to 3 at the very least. He has a pair of Force of Wills, a Wasteland, a Swords to Plowshares, and then 1 other card. Depending on what that card is, if it's a 3-drop, I mean, I think if it's a 3-drop, then that suggests it's a 3-drop at the very least.
An aggressive Force of Will there from Black. He's going to Force of Will, removing Force of Will, taking care of Stoneforge Mystic. He'll take a draw step, draw some Umezawa's Jite. Going to sacrifice Wooded Foothills, likely to find his second blue source, play a Wasteland, and probably True Name Nemesis. We should just put for the deck types True Name Nemesis.
True Name Nemesis?
Yeah. We should just change it when we get a second.
Black True Name Nemesis versus green True Name Nemesis.
Pretty much. Pretty much. So there's your Tundra via the Foothills.
All right. See what land he's going for here. And we see True Name. Sam has drawn Umezawa's Jite.
Not bad.
His hand right now is land Jite. So, kind of a perfect storm hand right there, except for the fact that Todd once again has an answer for True Name. All right. So he's drawn Noble Hierarch for the turn.
The Wasteland's going to take care of that.
Yeah, Todd didn't have any other lands that turn, so Sam's leaving Todd on just white mana. Todd has so much gas in his hand right now that this has got to be a concern for Sam. The moment that if Todd draws a fetch land at all, this gets really bad for Sam.
The tough thing here for Sam is that he doesn't. I mean, he has a way to kind of take advantage with the GT, but his hand right now is land and swords, and that's it. And he's just going to pass the turn back with a Trop and swords.
Well, what's interesting is he had another land there that he could have played, but he didn't play. I think it's being saved for the potential Brainstorm.
You said if Todd draws a fetch land, it's going to be trouble. Well, there's a delta.
This is trouble. This is trouble. Yep, that stays true.
So Todd's immediately going to sacrifice that. He's got some catching up to do, but not a ton, as he's going to search out an Underground Sea with the delta. And we'll see, he has a Stoneforge Mystic. He's got a Brainstorm. He's got a lot of stuff to do. He just needs the lands to do it.
Yeah, Stoneforge is a little weaker here because it's going to get eaten by the Noble Hierarch.
And he's just going to pass the turn back, daring Black to equip that Umezawa's Jite. So Black is going to untap his permanents. He'll take a draw step. It's a Savannah. So a few too many lands this go around.
Yeah, it's not that Sam wants to equip the Jite here. It's that he has no other plays.
So is Todd okay with this? He says, I'm going to Brainstorm in response. That's where I'll begin. So 1, 2, 3.
Fetch land,
Deluge.
Deluge, and Brainstorm.
Looks like Todd's going to put back a couple of Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, so an excellent Brainstorm for Todd there.
Oh, and he does take the hit, okay.
Yeah, well, he didn't have a choice there.
I didn't know if he had a swords in his hand or not, but obviously the answer is no.
Don't believe, yeah. So then he redraws the Deathrite Shaman. He's going to be able to shuffle away that other one.
He's going to quickly search here. He's going to go find a Trop, which he can he search a Trop with a
yeah, that doesn't
martial
actually,
arts?
no. I mean,
yeah, he cannot do that. So
I mean, it's a common mistake. You generally think that any fetch can find any land.
yes.
That's like, oh, okay. No, he cannot do that.
When you're 4 colors, you feel like you're just free rolling everything in the world.
Well, fetch lands plus dual lands is basically a free roll.
Yeah.
It's just not always a free roll.
And I wonder if this messes up his plan. That's the more interesting part. Is
So
here's
he has no
Underground Sea.
green.
Yeah.
Well, he won't be able to gain life with his Deathrite Shamans. Other than that, I don't think it impacts him right now.
But if he has like an Abrupt Decay in his hand or something, it's not going to work. So let's see what happens here. All right, True Name.
Yep, now he can block.
Yeah, problem solved.
Now, does Sam have any removal for a True Name?
Take a look at the main deck here. The answer is no. And then you look at the sideboard.
The answer is still no.
The answer is still no. How dare you play True Nemesis and not be able to kill other ones? Here's a Brainstorm for Sam. Well, he found a True Name, so life isn't so bad now.
Well, Todd's going to be forced to deluge his own True Name. The scary part for Todd is that if Sam plays another land here, he can play True Name, equip True Name with the Jite, and that will mean that Todd will have to pay a lot of life.
Hey, well, the way I look at it is that if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do to get that thing off of the table. So, Todd,
he's just going to cast it.
Yeah, he's just going to play it and pass the turn back. So, Anderson's going to take a draw step. This is a mystery card. It is a scrub land. So let's see exactly where he goes now.
Keeping pace on lands.
Yeah.
Todd should be fine here. Just because he seems really favored post-board because his deck actually can kill True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a bevy of ways to take care of the card. So that's the good thing for him. You know, as you mentioned with the Deluge here, he's got to pay a lot of life because he wants to get the Noble Hierarch off the board too. So then he has to lose his own True Name Nemesis. But again, if that's the cost of doing business to make sure that you win the game, I don't think that's so bad.
Yeah, paying 5 seems fine, especially when you have a Stoneforge which can find a Batterskull in your hand.
He's going to start by Brainstorming.
Yeah, I like this play because if he's committed to casting the Stoneforge Mystic, then he already has a shuffle, so he's basically doing the fetch land Brainstorm interaction here. Granted, I would put him on playing the Toxic Deluge, so we'll see which one he goes with. He drew what appears to be another True Name and a Thoughtseize. I can't imagine he really wants Thoughtseize right now.
He's going to start by blasting in for 3. Is he going to cast Toxic? He is. All right, so
hits Sam for 3, casts Toxic Deluge, And he is going to have to pay 5 if he wants to get everything right now.
I'm really interested to see what the magic number is here because he could just do it in such a way that it's just like, okay, true names die, and then I can just sword the Noble Hierarch and not care. Like, he could do that, and it would lose a GT counter. But I'm not surprised to see him pay 5 life.
Right. So Todd is left with a True Name Nemesis and a Stoneforge Mystic in his hand. I like how he's navigated that, so he still has both pieces to that combo, basically.
Thoughtseize too, if he feels like he needs to push something through. So he's in a good position here.
Yeah.
Right now, he just needs to kind of fade a really good draw from Sam. Like, if another True Name Nemesis comes off the top, it's an absolute nightmare.
Well, that's the danger, and that's why both people play 4 of them.
Yeah.
Is that Sam could certainly top deck one.
And Sam is going to sacrifice his fetch line. He's going to go down to 14, and then mystery draw. We know he has Swords of Plowshares in his hand. That's it. He seems shuffling up real good.
Yeah.
Come on, baby. I need that 3-1.
We will see.
All right, how do we do? Yeah.
And Sam does play another GT, not as good.
Not quite. Not quite. Passes the turn back to Anderson. Deathrite Shaman in the draw here. And the thing that I like about Esper Deathblade, as he does draw Deathrite Shaman, is that the draws in this deck, every like non-land card is so powerful that there's some real appeal to this deck.
Well, Esper Deathblade in many ways is similar to the Jund decks in Modern, where it's just, it's all good cards. It's these, cheap 2-mana value creatures and the best removal in the game. Granted that Deathblade has the advantage that it has Stoneforge Mystic, which doesn't really play fair. It cheats 5-mana things into play. So it has this, it's just more, it's like a really broken version of Jund.
Yeah. True Nemesis is going to resolve for Anderson. There's Noble Hierarch off the top there for Black. Again, Black's last card in his hand is a duplicate copy of Umezawa's Jite, which Anderson does know about.
Yeah, and Todd's really just going to try to sync up a Umezawa's Jite with his own True Name Nemesis.
So Todd's going to add some mana here. He's going to, he thinks he wants to play a Stoneforge. Looks like he's going to start off with a Brainstorm, however. And 3. Oh, look, another True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, and I don't know if he needs another one right now. We may even see him put it back. Possibly not just because the card's that insane.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, like, I could see wanting to put one back, but at the same time, you can have the fun little game of having one in play and then one back on defense, so the opponent can't ever really do anything, as Anderson's going to search for a Batterskull. But I guess Batterskull facilitates that game plan. So.
Yeah, Batterskull also, it does have Vigilance. It can't block True Name.
Now here's a Deathrite Shaman and passing the turn back. So, just 3 pillars of the Legacy format in play here for Anderson, and Stoneforge, Deathrite, and True Name. No big deal.
Well, it's interesting because Deathrite and cards like Deathrite and Stoneforge are these value creatures. I think True Name is the first card we've seen for a while in Deathblade that's just a beater. It doesn't. Vendilion Click is kind of a beater, but you play it for its ability. This guy just attacks and blocks. That's all he does. He's just very good at both.
I was gonna say you put that
Very
so modestly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all he does.
That's all he just attacks and blocks. I mean, just dies to removal, right?
Yeah, that's normally how creatures work. Is Sam's going to play a Kosali Pride Mage and pass the turn back here. So Anderson's going to take a draw step. There is a Diabolic Edict, which isn't going to do too much at this point in the game. He does have a Brainstorm at the ready.
Certainly is an insurance. He's going to hope to make it into an insurance policy against any future True Name Nemesis.
Well, there's a second one there from Anderson. So protection from Black. And I'm not talking about the color Black.
Whoa,
Protection from Sam
whoa.
Black. Yep, that's right. That's right.
All right.
I got a funny one in there. All right, semi-funny. No big deal. Force of Will to draw here for Sam. You see head in his hands. This is what it's like to face down 2 True Names, Sam. You probably did this to everyone at Grand Prix DC.
It's really strong. It's very hard to answer.
Yep. In for 3. Got to put Black down to 8. And Todd more than content just to pass the turn back. And the problem here for Sam is, again, if you look at his deck doesn't have any way to actually kill True Name. So he's basically in the hard lock right now of I can't attack and I can't block.
Yeah, and I do think the Bant Stoneblade deck, this is one of its weaknesses in a True Name Nemesis mirror. It's the best at finding its nemesis and getting them out early. It is the best deck at doing that, but now that opponents have these answers to True Name Nemesis, he's at a slight disadvantage.
Agreed. You see Force Will's going to take care of that Source of Plowshares there, which I don't think Anderson minds too much.
Yeah, I mean, Sam's forced into making that play. If a Batterskull hits the table, then all of Sam's outs are gone.
Yeah.
Right now, Sam has his out is to he would believe is to draw a True Name Nemesis. And I think that's still true for 1 turn here.
Diabolic Edict going to take care of that Noble Hierarch. Anderson's going to untap, take a draw. It is another copy of Deathrite Shaman. So he's not going to be able to get that Batter Skull in play just yet, which, again, not really that big of a deal because he attacks for 3, puts black down to 5.
Yeah, I don't know if black actually has a draw
anymore.
anymore.
I'm not convinced that he does. I think it's going to be really, really difficult. 2, 3. You see Abrupt Decay among the cards that are drawn. Umazawa's Jite for Todd that turn as well.
Yeah. This should be enough. Now that he's drawn the Jite, in addition to the Batter Skull, Sam, he can, the Turning Nemesis probably win the game on their own, but now he can overload Sam's artifact removal as well.
So here's 1. There's a Deathrite. Pass the turn back. Sam is going to untap his Lance. He's going to take a draw step. It's a Tundra, and that is going to do it. So Todd Anderson does defeat Sam Black. 2 games to 1. Esper Deathblade moves on to 5-1, while Bant Stoneblade moves down to 4-2. And what I feel like, after watching those games play out, I feel like after sideboard, it does favor Todd.
Yeah, well, if you're Sam Black right now, you have to